Hey everyone, I am TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host,
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
and welcome back to BunchaJokahs, where we're here finally to talk Age of Calamity spoilers. And it's been a long time coming, hasn't it, Kai?
Yeah, we've already discussed it a lot on the channel, but today's going to be kind of our conclusive thoughts on it, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you can't blame us for taking so long. There's about a bajillion side quests in that game. So I still haven't got all the Korok seeds and the final reward. I mean, I know what it is, but oh, you're gonna haunt me, Kai. Oh man, it's like Hetsu's moveset all over again. But but yes, we are here to go full in depth on spoilers for the game. So if you haven't beaten the game, and not just the main story, but also some of the post game surprises, this is your warning to maybe add this to your watch later and come back when you're ready.
Go watch the
Because
other videos instead, they don't have spoilers.
go watch all of those. Watch our Game of the Year discussions, everything on there. Just watch all our videos, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah, go for it.
Marathon. But we also, as part of that, we won't be going too in depth on sort of general impressions of the game and the UI and those sort of things that we've already covered in past discussions. This is going to be more so specifics on characters, certain levels, and of course the story itself. So yeah, should be good fun. Are you ready, Kai?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right then, let's get started on probably the one of the biggest parts of this game, which has been a bit divisive, I guess, among fans, and that is the story. Because straight out of it, time travel, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know too much about the rest of the Zelda series, but I do know that they love their split timelines, and I think that's
Oh yeah.
happened here.
It has. It's weirdly enough, it's confirmed in the loading screen that this is an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
So I guess you could sort of figure, but yeah, we're talking a completely separate path from Breath of the Wild, where the future is altered by Terrico, the little egg guardian, and we get the champion descendants come in there through time travel. We get a happy ending. Just what do you think of all these changes and the fact that it's not exactly linked to Breath of the Wild the way we thought it might be?
Um, to be honest, I do kind of like it. As with the rest of the game, it's very satisfying to have that story where it actually turns out alright. They altered the story so it'd fit more of a Warriors type game, so I like that they kind of did keep that story to gameplay connection in that way. And yeah, overall, I think that it was a good direction to go in to have that happy ending. Because of course, like, it would make sense to have a positive ending in this sort of game. My main gripe with it though is just that they shouldn't have advertised it to be a direct prequel, because it's not a direct prequel. It's a different timeline. So I kind of
Yeah.
wish that it was said a little earlier on, like, oh yeah, this isn't the exact same prequel. It's a timeline split, because I was a lot more focused in the first half of the game on, like, hang on, that's an inconsistency. An inconsistency. Like I
Same.
was looking at all the things that weren't the same as they should have been, rather than the story itself for a long time, just because they didn't tell us it was a timeline split. But apart from that, I loved
I
it.
am Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat as you in that I mean honestly, beforehand my personal preference was I did want this to be Breath of the Wild's Torna. And that's kind of the impression they were giving us. I wanted it
Yeah,
to be a sort of a depressing ending, but of course you've got that optimism of it all turns out okay in the end. But
yeah,
they went for a completely different route, and similarly to you, the entire first half of the game, I was just spending so much trying to figure out is this canon or not. I wasn't really paying enough attention to the proper story they were telling, to be honest. And it wasn't until the Descendants came out and it was like, oh, this is where they're going, that I was able to sort of accept that more and be like, okay, they're not going down the route I wanted, but they're doing this, let's have fun with it. And I
yeah.
feel like it's the kind of game I would enjoy the story even more on a second playthrough now that I know where it's going and what it's doing. Um, but that being said, once you get over that hurdle that yes, this is a more crazy adventure, it is a really still a fun narrative. It still has that emotional moments with the characters. We still get to see more of the champions and what they were like and how they interacted with each other, which we barely saw in the main game. So they
Yeah,
really
that
were
was
able
really
to
nice to
use,
see. Yeah.
yeah, they were able to use this narrative to go places that they wouldn't be able to otherwise. Partly with things like, of course, bringing together everyone using the Sheikah Slate and some gameplay mechanics. But also moments like Sidon having a heart-to-heart with Mipha, which is so wholesome. So
It was great. Every time like the champions and the descendants interacted, I was like, this is what peak story looks like to me.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a worthwhile trade-off overall. I think that we were able to get something different, and who knows, maybe we'll see what actually happened in the main Breath of the Wild timeline some other time. This might even give us hints towards stuff that happened, like Link getting the Master Sword, protecting Zelda in the Lost Woods. That probably happened in a similar way in the main timeline. I think there's still hints that we learn more about these characters, even if it is a different timeline. So it still has
Yeah.
some sort of connections in that way.
Yeah, I think the overall direction they went with the story was good. It was satisfying, that sort of thing.
Mm.
So I'm kind of glad for that. I will say though there were like minor things that sort of I weren't happy with. Like for example, there were a lot of like random plot points I felt and a lot of random bits that just didn't really seem to conclude in a way. The main one being
Yeah,
Suga,
I was gonna
Master
say,
Koga's
yeah,
new adversary, or not adversary, assistant, I should say. And it's just
Mm.
like how them two were like a very big thing. I feel for the first half of the game, like the Yiga clan were there all the time, and I was kind of cool with it. I was like, this is nice. I think Suga's quite a good antagonist.
yeah,
And when there were a lot of talks between Master Koga, Suga, and Astor, I thought
yeah,
the interaction that these three are having is interesting. And then after that one scene where Master Koga and Suga like do a small battle against Astor,
mm.
Master Koga joins everyone after the Fort Hateno level, and Suga just doesn't appear. He's just not there for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But he
I'm
appears in
like,
your character bio.
yeah, I wasn't sure. Like, was he killed by Astor? Or did he just disappear somewhere?
They
He's
just
gone on
don't really.
vacation,
They just dropped him. They straight up dropped
Yeah,
him.
yeah, I'm with you there. I think this is a good point to sort of segue into the villains of the story because, of course, we have Astor, and he's this very interesting character that we really don't know too much about. But
Yeah, that's
I
true.
kind of, I can't say I didn't like him because I think he had some great scenes, and he had some great moments, and he was just like voice acting. He sounded terrifying, so they
Yeah.
got him good. It was just you kind of want to know a bit more about where he's from and what he does and who he was before he got involved with the Calamity. Because actually, in the description for him, I believe it says something like he's from a certain small village in Hyrule,
Oh, really?
and I can't figure out what that's meant to be hinting that he's from. Like, yeah, I
Yeah, I
can't
don't
figure
really
out what
know.
that's hinting at.
Um,
I feel like
hmm.
that's something for the fan theories, but
Yeah, Asta was a very interesting character though. Like, I feel like he had a lot of potential to be fleshed out, and only
mm,
part of that was met. But overall, he seemed like a really interesting character, and I say he had the potential to be fleshed out because the setup that he was given made us want to know more about him. So it was a
yeah, it
well-made
did, yeah.
character. We just wanted more of that, and wanted to see like more so what his deal was.
Yeah,
So
and it was. I mean, it did get a bit generic at the end when he's absorbed into Ganon, and it's like, how many times have we seen this with
yeah.
like Yuga or whatever it is? It's kind of a recurring theme, but he was still fun to be there. And I know this is kind of off topic, but I'm interested in what the version of him in Breath of the Wild's timeline was up to.
I do have a
Um,
theory for that.
all right, go for it. I'm
Um,
interested.
I think it's something when we first saw him and we discussed it in one of our videos.
Mm,
I theorized that he was King Rome's advisor, and
yes.
I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure in the Japanese translation for his bio it mentions him like being an advisor or something. I don't really remember, so I
Right.
could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like he normally was King Rome's advisor because there's big theories that are very prominent saying that the king's advisor was evil and was directing King Rome to make the wrong decisions in light of the calamity showing up.
Yeah,
So I thought that he was going to fill that role. I was thinking, man, how's he going to fit into like discussions with King Rome? And then it was like, oh, they never actually interacted in the game. Okay, never mind.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, but
Oh well.
yeah, that's definitely a big possibility that just this version of him, of course, discovered the malice corrupted Terrico that gave him powers his alternate version didn't have, so it took him down a slightly different path. But yeah, I do like that theory. And I think in general, some of the cutscenes in this game, they were very well directed. We got a lot more action than we did in Breath of the Wild's cutscenes.
Absolutely.
Especially
yeah.
with Link. I love how like every single cutscene, he's just shield bashing stuff all over the place. That's all that Link does. He just shield
That's
bashes
his main
stuff.
thing. He just shield bashes everything.
Yeah. I wish I could be as good at the shield bash as he is at the timing, but it is pretty entertaining though. And of course, I want to give a special mention to his cutscene where he fights Rivali. That entire section's so darn good.
I think best choreography in the game, that cutscene. It was very good.
It's like the perfect combination of, the cutscene, the gameplay, and the music all coming together in a way. Probably my favourite moment in the game, honestly. Low key, it's just, it's good.
No,
fun.
it's fair. Like that's a real highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. And I think as well the voice acting we need to mention for not just the returning characters who are able to sort of flex their vocal muscles a bit more, which we've already mentioned, but new characters or characters who didn't have voices before, like Koga and Hestu, and all sorts, were able to match perfectly how I envisioned them from playing the original. So
Yeah, I feel like the people who are picking out the voice actors, I say for the English mainly because I haven't listened to the Japanese dub, but for the English dub, whoever
same.
picked out these voice actors for the new roles did a really good job.
Definitely, yeah. So all in all, it's just it's a fun story. It's not mind blowing, but it's on the better end of Zelda stories, and that it's actually got cutscenes and dialogue.
Yeah, I think the sheer amount of cutscenes and story they gave us within itself was a good thing, because Breath of the Wild didn't have that, for good reason it didn't have that, but it didn't have a lot of story and a lot of cutscenes. So the fact that Age of Calamity managed to fill in that gap is just, it's made the two games together feel very complete.
Yeah, it's got some nice parallels to the main game as well. I like how it hits the emotional moments, like Zelda unlocking her powers, trying to save Link in Hateno. In a slightly different way to the main game, but the same main beats are there.
And if we're talking emotional beats, Zelda's Lullaby. Oh, with Terrico.
Yes.
Oh.
They use that perfectly at the right moments as well.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Really hit it home. I was heartbroken when you had to fight Terrico. That was a good, but also awful moment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas, a good, fun story. And one thing I do want to quickly mention is that, of course, there is a bit of debate. Some people saying whether or not it's canon. And I think most people are veering towards it is canon just because it's its own separate timeline. So it can exist without messing with Breath of the Wild. Although the only thing that does mess with Breath of the Wild is, of course, the champion descendants have been time traveled now. But, I don't think in Breath of the Wild 2 you're going to walk up to Sidon and he's going to be like, "Yo, Link, did you hear about that time I went back in the past and thought of a different version of you? That was mental!" That's not happening, so...
Yeah, I'm going to consider it like the Breath of the Wild timeline is like the main one, and then the Warriors is kind of like a branch. It's still canon, but it's the less important branch off of that that's just the Warriors Mayhem timeline. I think every game secretly has a wacky Warriors timeline.
Yeah. I like to think so. The fans definitely like to think so with how ridiculous the theories get. So but but ultimately I think it's one of them cases of it doesn't really matter whether it's canon or not, because Nintendo aren't going to reference it moving forward anyway. So
True.
So still fun. But let's move off of the narrative now and onto the characters, specifically the playable characters. And there are a lot in this game, more than we both anticipated in our initial discussion. Some crazy picks.
There were some wild ones, and they were making movesets for this game, like Sakurai makes new movesets for Smash. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. You want a piranha plant? Have him, do it. It's
Fairies? Ugh.
yeah. Let's talk about the fairies a little bit, actually.
Should we go for them first? Okay.
Yeah, I know you have thoughts, so I'll let you take this away, Kai. Go for it.
Why? Why? Okay, so there are two. Was it two optional characters? I suppose it's technically more looking at the rest of the game, but for the main game,
there's two in the main game and two in the post game.
There, yeah. And the fairies just why? Who thought this was a good idea? Like, they're so big, and I play the way I play Age of Calamity is I focus almost purely on flurry rushes and dodging and that sort of thing. You can't really dodge with the fairies; they're so big.
Well, actually, Kai, as a counter to that, I accidentally used them for the first mission where you can't take a single hit, and I won it. I'm just saying. So
the first one's easy.
It is
the rest
easy,
of them
but
are
still.
another story.
Okay, easy as a normal character, yes. Easy as the Great Fairies, not quite so much. But still, you are right.
They are ridiculous, and I think they are very chaotic, and I can appreciate how chaotic they are. But at the same time, it just feels like I know it's a Warriors game, so I shouldn't be saying this, but it feels like a little bit too far compared to the other characters they could have chosen for the role. I don't know though.
It's incredibly stupid, and I kind of love it. It's again they've put all the details into their moveset, like how one of the special attacks is they all lean in for the kiss, like they do for Link upgrading his abilities. One of them gets out the horse fairy, whatever it is, comes out one of the attacks.
Oh, what's it called?
Can't remember.
Melania, Malika, something like that.
Something like that. And the voices are ridiculous, but also perfectly fitting. So
they are my least favourite.
I'm barely touched them. I'm not really going to touch them anymore. But I do appreciate just how ridiculous they are.
I don't want them to touch me either.
They're just going to drag you into their giant flower pool, poor Link. Poor Link.
Oh no.
But the other optional character there is the monk. You probably remember his name.
Monk Mazkoshia, the one that you
That's
fight.
it.
Well, can we do Breath of the Wild spoilers as well? Are we allowed to do that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild DLC spoilers.
Monk Mazkoshia is.
Yeah.
I think he was that name was devoted to the lead. I think it was the lead combat designer for Breath of the Wild, and it is the final boss for the Ballad of Champions DLC story in Breath of the Wild, and he was playable here. Another crazy one, to be honest, but again, I kind of like how crazy it was. I wasn't a huge fan of the gameplay, but I liked the concept a little more here than the fairies.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like one of them, he rises up a shrine from the ground, and he uses all the different things from the shrine, like the orbs and the electric ones as well. So it's very clever. I think even like down to the fairies, every moveset is so interesting, especially when you compare it to like Fire Emblem Warriors, where it's I hit with a sword, I hit with a different shaped sword.
I hit with a spear on a Pegasus, and then there are 4 other people that show up. So do we.
I hit with a spear, not on a Pegasus. It's different, but it's so much more varied. Yeah, and I haven't got to try him out, and we mentioned this a bit before the recording that one of the problems with Warriors games and how you level up characters is that it doesn't encourage you to try out every character or at least to keep trying them out, because they lag behind, and it's so much effort to keep them all well leveled. So that's kind of a shame. Some characters I would like to play more I didn't get to. But when I go back to the Korok Seeds, he's definitely one I'm going to try and give another go at and see if I can get to grips with his moveset. Because it is cool to... I think they said in some sort of interview, they had him there because they wanted to represent the monks and the shrines, which are such a huge part of Breath of the Wild. And they really went all in.
I feel like with Monk Mazkoshia, they did... The moveset itself I didn't feel like flowed from a gameplay perspective, but in terms of references, I think it was the best character in terms of references in its moveset. So
yeah, that's true.
Kind of good, I don't know.
And we've already talked a bit about Link, Zelda, Impa, and the champions, but we'll get to those in a little bit if we talk about our favourites. But
Yeah.
moving on to the champion descendants, who we haven't got to talk about yet, which again that was a what the heck moment when they came out. But
Yeah.
I went and rewatched our initial reactions to the announcement of Age of Calamity, and in it I mentioned the champion descendants and was like, well, I'm a bit concerned they might play the same as the main champions. That was not the case at all.
Yeah, they made some great moves.
They go all in with them.
I think they were great because they all had like unique movesets that weren't similar to the actual champions in the slightest. They all had kind of their own little things that all worked for them. So I was really appreciative of that they managed to make it so different.
Yeah, do you have any particular favourites of them? Any standouts?
Yes, I do. Sidon.
I think we're
guy is he's my favourite character in the game. Both in terms of his character and his gameplay. I think his gameplay is amazing. It's so satisfying.
It's so satisfying. That final combo you unlock, where you just spam the special move, and it's
oh yeah, he's the best character by far.
It's ridiculous.
He's
and
so
I love how
good.
it's I just learned this from like a Good Vibes Gaming discussion on it, but it's called something like his Optimism, his special move.
When, it's called it's like activate optimism or something. It's so good.
Yeah, something.
Best boy.
And he does the grin and everything when you use it. It's it's just perfect.
Yeah, Sidon's he's the best. He's actually the best character in the game.
Yeah, I mean, like, Riju was fun, but ridiculously chaotic. You can't control her.
Most chaotic character in the game, straight up. Riju, and let's not forget the best Sandseal Patricia, were the most chaotic duo in the game. They were crazy.
They were. Yunobo I find a little bit forgettable. He's kind of fine.
He was kind of. I feel like his moves were. It was an interesting concept, but they could have probably made him a little bit more powerful. Yeah,
I agree. And Tabor, I know a lot of people really like him. Are you one of those?
Yeah, I think he's very... I don't think I'm very good at playing as him, but I think he's one of the best ones in the game, yeah.
I wasn't personally a fan. A lot of his moves lock you into stuff, like that move where he flies all over the place and I end up losing track of where I am, But,
yeah, that's fair.
But he's interesting, and I'm glad that they did make them all unique. And speaking of unique, Koga. His moveset just makes me laugh so much.
Wait, whose moveset?
Koga.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous. That one where like it forms a clone of himself and they just start punching each other and fighting. Yeah.
He's got such a funny moveset. It's great.
He has. It's they captured his personality, and again, the credit to the voice actor who did a great job with this too. But they got it through perfectly, and he's a character. I'm not like the most powerful as him, but I just have fun, and the beam as well is a very interesting mechanic. So
yeah, the big glowy beam. I think his moveset was very very fun to experience more than anything. And it was very good in terms of references to the Yiga clan. Like it was I feel like a lot of people could kind of predict that Koga was going to become playable at some point. And he did a really good job of representing what the Yiga clan are like, because they're just funny, to be honest. I think they're a good like comedic relief in the game. So
definitely, yeah. He balanced well with as a good contradict to the deadly serious and dark Astor. So they there was a fun dynamic there.
It's basically Team Rocket.
Basically, yeah. Oh man, I'm not going to unhear that now. But
Jesse Suga. The Yiga clan blasts off at the speed of light. Let's not go into that any further. Okay.
Moving on to the next character, who one that I predicted would be in the game, but I did not predict I would love as much as I did. And that is the King, because hot damn, he's a beast.
He's really fun, because he's kind of like a heavyweight character sometimes, and then he's also got his lightweight form, and I'm like, this is a cool kind of idea.
Yeah, he feels like, oh, he's got a great claymore, he's going to be using that very slowly and big, strong. No, he's rapid fire slicing it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of the more
And
simpler characters actually. Like his moveset and everything, that his whole gimmick and everything is a lot more simple than other characters.
what was that,
But
sorry?
his moveset and everything's a lot simpler than a lot of the other
Okay.
characters in the game. Oh, but does it cut out?
Uh-oh, Discord.
I can hear you still.
Oh, okay, you were dying for me.
Okay. I'm guessing
we
we're
good?
cutting this part
We're
out.
back? Yeah, I'll probably cut this bit out. Or what
Okay.
is entertaining for the audience, watching us confused. But, sorry, what were you saying?
So I was saying King Rome has one of the more simple movesets in the game overall, like compared to all the wacky gimmicks of the other characters. But
He
it's
does.
actually it's a lot of fun still. Like even though it's a little simpler, it's one of the most satisfying, and he's probably in my top 5 favorite characters to play as. So
Yes, same. I was using him right up to the final mission of the game, which is ridiculously difficult. So
yeah,
you can do some crazy stuff with him. And our final two ones, which you unlock in the post game, are the Eggy himself, Terrico, and Calamity Ganon, which were both. I honestly, it makes sense. We talked about the possibility of Terrico being playable in our initial discussions, but
Yeah.
I didn't think about it again until that final bit where it's like hit all of the Terrico's parts, and I'm like, oh, I see where it's going.
yeah.
It's fun.
Terrico's an interesting character. I
Hmm.
kind of like it. I mean, my trigger finger hurts after using
Yeah,
him, but that's about
same.
it.
I can't figure out how to effectively use the laser blasts, but he's fun, and it's cool that we have, we talked about representing different parts of Breath of the Wild. That
Yeah.
Terrico represents the Guardians and their style of fighting and the ancient weapons and everything. So
Yeah, and it does a good job.
he played, he played like you think he should play, and I forgot to mention back in the narrative that final scene where you rebuild him is wholesome as heck. I love it.
It is. It's so good.
I wasn't expecting it either. I was just playing in handheld, just casually, grinding away at the side quests. And I was like, oh, cutscene, what?
Yeah, and the credits
But I'm
actually
glad.
after that were
Oh,
like
yeah,
very nice. I really liked those credits.
they were. And then the final character, Calamity Ganon. What did you think?
I harbour similar feelings towards Calamity Ganon as I do the fairies. I feel like it came. I mean, I understand why it came in so late, but I was going through 100%ing the game, and I literally only had the chance to play as Calamity Ganon for 4 levels, 4 minor stages,
Yeah.
before I 100%ed the game. And even then, like,
Yeah.
Calamity Ganon seemed very big, so, like the fairies, you can't dodge. And the moves they seemed very strong because of their reach, but it's very hard to get any good combos going when everything hits you, So,
Yeah,
I wasn't a
and
huge fan.
I don't know if
dunno.
it's. Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but I thought it was interesting his mechanic of spreading malice and absorbing it. But the final mode when you unleash all that power didn't feel more powerful, really.
Yeah, it didn't
I
seem.
didn't
I
really
don't know,
notice
I
much
wasn't a huge
difference.
fan.
Yeah. And actually, one thing we sort of glossed over actually was Zelda's unleashed form, her full-on
Oh, of
goddess
course.
powers
Yeah.
with the bow of light and everything, which I think on the one hand looks really cool, but maybe it's just me. I didn't think it was as powerful as it looked. I'm not very good at playing it.
Yeah,
But I still had fun with
it
it.
was alright. Very
Yeah.
middle of the road, I feel.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like it should have been ridiculously OP for being, Zelda unleashing her stealing powers, shooting light everywhere, but it's still fun. It's just
yeah, I
nowhere
would
near as good as,
put that
someone like
down
Link
to,
and the
like,
Master Sword.
I don't know. I'd probably put that down to just like, oh, she's only just unlocked the power, so it makes sense she wouldn't be able to go ham on everything. But yeah, I feel like she could have definitely just been OP and it would have been fine.
But Kai, that's not the Hyrule Warriors way. Hyrule Warriors way is ridiculously OP. Come on, get with the
True.
program.
I think her
um,
in that form, like her normal attacks were good. They weren't amazing, but they were like
yeah,
decent. And then her like luminescent form or whatever it is called, kind of
Yeah,
bad.
when you
You
raise
can't
off the
dodge
ground.
during it. It's terrible.
yeah. Although I will say, I do like how it looks, how she just sort of
Oh, it
floats above
looks
everyone.
amazing. Yeah.
It does, yeah. They got that, narratively and from a visual perspective perfectly. I just wish it hit with a bit more power.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
fair.
it's
That's
a
fair.
great cast overall. And do you have any particular, you know, favourites or standouts that we didn't mention from the champions and Link and that?
I think I still stand that my top five are from
Yeah,
fifth to first, like King Rome, Urbosa, Link, Mifa, and then Sidon at number one. So
I'm not sure in the order, but those top five, I think I agree completely that they are my top five. They
yeah, I don't know.
they all
They're all
felt
just so
good.
good.
Yeah, but
Oh, big
yeah,
up
really
Sidon.
really fun ones. And in general, I think not only are they so much more unique than something like Fire Emblem Warriors, there's so much more consistency than the original Hyrule Warriors, which I know you haven't played yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
haven't played it.
maybe it's just me, but I found like in that game, Darunia sucks. In that game, Ruta sucks. But here you got Mifa and Daruk, who I love. So they've really made. I mean, of course, some characters like the fairies are god awful, but overall, there's a much better level of consistency to Age of Calamity. That I'm happy with how the characters went. I know
Yeah, it
that there's
seems like the
some you think
Warriors
I'm
team have done a
missing,
good
but
job.
yeah, we will get at the end. We'll talk a bit about DLC for characters they could add or characters who should have been in the game. Some would argue, but that's that's for a little bit. So before we get to that, let's end off with the levels themselves because there's quite a big variety. I don't know how many it is, but it's got to be something like 20 or around
I
that
think
amount.
it's
And
20 on the dot. Yeah.
yeah, and there's some real highlights there. I want to call out specifically the Akala Citadel, which was really cool to be able to climb up it and explore inside.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I feel like I was looking at a map just before we started recording to see like what
Yeah,
areas they hit in the game and which ones they kind of missed out on, and they hit like all of the key locations in the game. I feel that would really work for a Warriors game. They didn't miss straight up.
yeah,
They did really well. Um,
no, there's so
so
many
that was
different
definitely a good thing.
places. Not just not just the main landmarks like Akala Citadel and the Great Plateau, but also just like different areas like the sort of the wetlands we went to in one place. So the different types of environments as well. We went over to
Yeah,
Faron for one of the levels, and the ruins there. There was the real variety that there's nothing I thought. Why didn't we see this place in the game? Maybe it would have been cool to go inside Kakariko or something, but I can overlook that. It's not a problem. It's
yeah.
they covered enough.
In terms of what
And
the Warriors
another one.
games should do,
Oh, yeah.
like they hit the mark.
Yeah, and it was really cool just seeing these locations. One pretty faithful, but also how they looked back when they were more built up. I loved seeing the Great Plateau with the like the walls up everywhere, and seeing
Yeah.
inside to the Temple of Time when it's an actual temple, not just ruins. It was really nice. I've got a lot of screenshots from the Great Plateau.
Yeah,
Got
no,
an
it's
army of
really
them.
good. Like the way they built everything up and showed how it was really satisfying to see because I feel like a lot of people wanted to see that kind of thing, like how it did used to look. So
Yeah, yeah. They really attention to detail is insane, and we talked before, of course, in our main early discussions about how visually it looks good, but they capture these environments perfectly. That it doesn't bother me that it's not as good quality as Breath of the Wild itself, obviously, but for how many enemies are on screen, it does a good job.
yeah, they do well.
Pretty nice. Are there any particular other stages or locations you want to mention here?
I'll say, what's it called? The two stages in Chapter 5, Water and Fire, and then Lightning and Wind, or whatever it was. I really
Yeah,
liked those two
yeah,
stages. I wasn't a huge fan of how they were like, oh, the champion's health are going down, hurry. I wasn't a huge fan of that side of
yeah.
it, but the rest of the stages, like, for those two were really good. I like the way you navigate around them. The music in those two were a
Mm.
standout because they mixed
Yes.
together two of the champion themes in each one. Of course, they were the stages where the descendants appeared, all that sort of thing. So I think those two stages in Chapter 5, although the locations weren't necessarily like important ones, they were probably the least important out of all of them. I feel like what you actually do in the stages were very nice to see.
Yeah, the feel of like I remember being impressed by the lightning stage, how like the lightning lights up the entire screen when it happens. It feels
Yeah.
impactful and it's a really cool effect. And speaking of music, I also want to shout out the Lost Woods. The soundtrack and
Yes.
that, how they added like a guitar to the haunting Lost Woods theme and just gave it a completely different feel. That really bolstered that level for me. As well as, of course, that's where you get the Master Sword. There's a lot happening there, but that was a standout for me as well.
Yeah, I'm with you
But
there.
yeah, like a great variety of courses, and I think that's probably the perfect way to segue into the DLC then, which hasn't been confirmed, but seeing as it's in like a week it became the best-selling Warriors game, you kind of have to imagine that they might be doing DLC for it at some point. Koei Tecmo always do DLC for these, so I think it's just a
I'd
matter of
buy
time.
it.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really good decision if they do that, purely because I want to play more of this game. I might actually go
Yeah,
replay it next week or something, I don't really know yet.
don't blame you.
um, so I think it'd be a very good decision if they made DLC, like, from their perspective as a business sense, it would definitely sell well.
Yeah,
And it gives them a lot
especially
more chances to be creative with the game, so I don't see why not.
yeah, especially if I mean, partly it's Zelda's 35th anniversary this year, and if Breath of the Wild 2 does come out at the end of the year, which I think is a big possibility, this is really a perfect sort of thing. Release DLC over the summer, get people hyped in the build up to Breath of the Wild 2. So
Yeah, that's true.
it'd be a good way to keep momentum going. But talking on specifics, are there any particular characters you want to see? And I think I have an idea who you might mention.
Yeah, three big ones.
Yeah,
Suga, as we mentioned, Suga just kind of got pushed off
yeah.
to the side. Don't know why. But I feel like he could have a creative moveset, because when you fight him, he has his own moveset, so they could draw things from that. He wields dual,
Hmm.
like, katana blades. They're really cool. I feel like there's potential there.
Yeah, it's unique. He's not. He doesn't play anywhere near the same as Koga does, so you can
Yeah.
definitely do some cool stuff with him.
But yeah, in the Yiga Clan stage, when halfway through it, I got like an eightfold long blade or a wind cleaver, can't remember which one, and I thought that was going to be a
Yeah.
weapon for Suga. So I was sitting there thinking, oh great, we're going to unlock him at the end of this
Ah.
stage, and we didn't unlock him. And then later on, we get Koga, and then
Hmm.
Suga just shows up as a side thing, and I was like, he's not playable, man, make him playable. He's got potential.
Hmm.
So Suga's one of them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That would be cool.
Yeah. I think
And
Pura.
I'm
is
guessing
another one.
you might be going to some certain scientists for your other picks, perhaps.
Yeah, two certain scientists, Pura and Robbie, of course. I mean, they both
Yeah.
appear in the game. They have the designs. They have in-game models, because there are two stages where they are like actually there. They don't do anything, but they are there. So yeah, I think Pura and Robbie could become playable characters, just because give Robbie his ancient weapons moveset, give him the ancient chainsaw and all his cool like weapons that he gives you in Breath of the Wild. Pura can have
Yeah.
some like cool camera moveset of some kind. I don't really know, but there's probably potential there. She could probably even be like
Yeah.
similar-ish to Zelda in that she uses the runes a lot. I don't really entirely know. It would be cool if she had like some moveset parts in relation to how you scan amiibos as a rune. Who knows?
Yeah, there's some interesting ways they could incorporate them, and with the creativity they've shown with all the other characters, I don't doubt that. However, they could do them justice. It's like Sakurai creating Smash characters.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who they are, they're going to make them interesting to play as. I wonder if the reason they weren't playable was because some of the sort of things that they could use were incorporated by other characters.
Yeah.
So like the Sheikah elements were used by Impa, the shrine stuff research was used by the monk, and the guardian weapons were used by Terrako. So in hindsight, I wonder if that's the reason why they weren't playable initially. But I still think that doesn't mean there's nothing they could do to add them in. I think there's plenty
Give me
they
Robbie.
could do to yeah. Just they can go hee hee with every move, and it's
He's still got a lot of
perfect
potential.
moveset.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one that I really, the only one worth mentioning that we haven't that I want to call out is Astor, because I really thought he was going to be playable. I thought he was going to
Yeah.
be, the playable villain, and then it was Calamity Ganon, which I would mention. I kind of called in one of our discussions, where
Oh,
I
really?
thought it was going to be a divine. I mentioned it as like a divine B section where you play as Calamity Ganon, which isn't quite the same, but I want
I
to give
would be
me
hype.
partial credit.
Fair enough.
If that's DLC, actually, yeah, that would be awesome. Depressing, but awesome. But yeah, Astor, I feel like they've got a moveset ready for him. You fight him in the game. There's so much they could do with it. And if we look at the original Hyrule Warriors, what they did for that DLC was they added a new mini campaign where you saw some of the story from Sia's perspective. Sia being the main bad guy of that game.
Yeah.
And if they did like a little side campaign from Astor's perspective, maybe you play as Koga and Suga in it, I think that would be awesome to give it not just characters, but give us some new levels to play around in, and maybe
That'd be very
some
cool,
extra
yeah.
locations. Yeah, I can't think of any more locations they could add, but
I've got a couple ideas for stages.
it's a massive map.
But yeah.
Yeah, they've got to come up with something.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty much everything covered. Kai, have you got any other final things you want to mention before we end our spoiler discussion?
I think in terms of DLC stages, the main one I thought that they could add is perhaps like a Mount Lanayru stage, going up the mountain.
Right.
I feel like there's
Oh,
potential.
that's a good idea.
You have like the pathway going towards it, where you have the memory along the way, and then you have the snowfield,
Yes.
and then you have the mountain. I feel like that whole thing could become a stage within itself. But apart from that, I don't really know. Maybe in the DLC they could add like their very own
Yeah.
trial of the sword or something, but I don't really know. They did a really good
I
job
mean,
of covering
This
stages.
is probably a bit far-fetched, but if Breath of the Wild 2 happened to release earlier this year, maybe the reason they haven't announced DLC yet is because it's going to tie in with like Breath of the Wild 2 in somehow. I mean, not in a canon story way, but
No, I see it. Yeah.
bonus extra levels or something. I doubt it, but
No, I see your point though. That's
could
fair.
be fun, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh, but yeah, any final thoughts other than that, Kai?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Very cool game. Very cool.
Yeah, a great surprise at the end of the year. I mean, I won't spoil, but if you watch our Game Awards discussion, Kai and I both ranked it quite highly
Yeah.
as Game of the Year. So, or in that sort of vicinity. So, definitely a great game. But I think that brings us to the end of our discussion on it. So, Kai, first up, big thank you for talking through this with me, despite the technical difficulties due to Discord.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been good.
Yeah, it's been great fun. And of course, a huge thanks to our graphic designer, Sam. See, I used your proper title now. I hope you're happy, Sam. Graphic designer. There we go. But he of course, he made our logo, all the thumbnails, and any graphics you see in the videos from us. So, big thank you to you, Sam. And of course, a thank you to all of you for watching. We really appreciate all support, and do stay tuned to BunchaJokahs, because we've got plenty more coming up in the new year, as well as, of course, our usual podcasts every month, and any reactions or discussions to whatever Nintendo announces. We've got some other surprises as well coming up, some new types of videos, which should be fun. And you can find all of that here on our YouTube channel, as well as the podcast and discussions you can find on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, under the same name, BunchaJokahs. So feel free to check us out there too. But that brings us to the end, so thank you all so much, and we will see you in the next time. Goodbye.
Bye.